I love you say that. We talked about it a couple of times, but the partnership in spaces of nonprofit and giving back. I sit on the board of a foundation. It happens to be at my old high school, and there's so many things going on. Like you have the PTSO, you have another club, you have the Edgewater High School Foundation, and we're all doing the same things and targeting the same people. And I mean, just recently we're hosting a gala coming up in November. Well, guess what? One of the other programs is also hosting an event at the same venue, reaching, and it's like, how do we come together to do this?
Sure.
But it is collaboration. It's people understanding what collaboration means, as well. It's very frustrating because you mentioned we're all in it for the same purpose, but we all want to be better than the next, and it's like,
Right.
come on.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah,
definitely touching some
I
stuff on
think
that.
collaboration is key in the nonprofit space, especially given our local, well, national climate. As far as it's really tough out there for a lot of nonprofits, and so let's join together and do better.
I love it. So if you could kind of talk about the organization, what is the name of it? Rares, Raise for Rare, is that correct?
Raised for Rare, and the name actually it was not Raised for Rare initially. I wanted to find like what was our kind of like a Make a Wish name. What is that national name that would really show what our work was, and we just couldn't figure out a name. But I just had the calling, and I'd had the meeting with the builder and some other funders, and I was just like, we can't let a name hold this organization back. So initially it was named after my son, and his name is Corwin, which Corwin means, I had chose that name because it means companion of the heart, and I didn't know
Wow.
how long he would be with me, but I knew he'd always be in my heart. So it was called Corwin's Cause initially, and from there I we had it's called Idaho Gives. It's a big statewide day of giving here, and I had invited some of our families out, and they wanted to come out and advocate for the organization and kind of just be seen. I think that this organization empowers these families that are generally all isolated and siloed out to come together and just have this voice and be seen and be comfortable with it. And I was watching them tell their stories, and people were always like, "Who's Corwin?" And they would tell Corwin's story, and then they would tell about the organization, and then the supporters would kind of move on. They weren't there long term, as far as they just kind of wanted to hear what the organization was and what's the meaning behind the name. And our family stories were lost, and that's when it was on my heart. I was like, we have to change this name. And so most of our children have a rare disease, which includes all forms of pediatric cancer, heart conditions. Nearly all of them have a rare disease or have survived something they most likely would not have. We have some
Mhm.
non-fatal drownings, things like that. So some very rare tragic accidents. So they're all rare in their own ways. And the sunshine has always been a big representation of the organization. And so we just thought rays, right? Like rays of light on this rare population.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, really, when you think about something like this, you really got to think about all those different things. There's some amazing things you guys are doing that you guys do annually, for some of these kids. Santa rides, right? A wheelchair friendly pumpkin patch. Are you guys doing that actually currently when it comes to the pumpkin patch?
We just did that a couple of weeks ago. We have an amazing pumpkin patch here that has gravel lined pathways, so it's very accessible. They have plenty of handicap parking. That's a big thing when you're looking at bringing a couple hundred people with wheelchair vans.
Hmm.
Most places only have a few handicap spots, so this place has abundant handicap parking. But there's pumpkin patch. There's all sorts of, there's a corn maze. They can't really get through the corn maze so easy, but there's some smaller activities. They have like a big bin of corn kernels that the kids can sit in and feel. And we had pizza delivered, and they just had a great time picking out their pumpkins. And there, again, there's a petting zoo there. They can pick flowers. There's just an
Love
abundance of
that.
activities. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really helping them, with joy, right? Just when you're in that space of pain and loss, it's help bringing people that joy. How do you measure that actually? How do you measure the value of joy when you're doing this type of work?
I think we get a lot of feedback. We get a lot of thank you messages, letters, emails. Just see when you're at one of these events, you see the joy, you see the smiles, you see the families hugging each other. They've really turned into family, a lot of them to each other. They'll watch each other's kids when they need, a break, or they, just again hearing how much it impacts families' lives. We had a family that came, they moved to our area. for treatment for their child from another state because they weren't getting the care they needed. And when he passed away, I asked if they were going to move back to the state they came from because they had nobody here. Their family all was in this other state. And they just said, no, this community means more to us than any family we have. And so they chose to stay in this area just because of this community, even after their son had passed.
I mean, you definitely, as a leader, bring people together, and you allow people to feel seen and heard, which is why they continue to come back, right? But in the same space as you building this as a leader, there's imposter syndrome. There's the who am I to sit here? What does those moments look like as you're building? Like who's helping you? I mean, I can't imagine you weren't going to Hawaii during these times, right? That would have been an easy
No,
trip to Hawaii.
right.
But what's happening? Who's pouring into to you as you're trying to pour into others?
Well, for the first few years I did this, I just did it out of my own funding, my own time. Now we have, paid staff and everything, but in those early years, I mean, I was working 80 hours a week to get this going, and I wasn't getting paid. I was just doing this because I had to give purpose to my pain. And so that's really what drove me. And my son taught me to be an advocate. I had to a lot of times stand up and have hard conversations for what was best for him. I think that really helped
Yeah.
with imposter syndrome. When you have a medically complex child that even the experts don't know the answers to,
Mm.
you have to really lean into your gut and say, we were put in a position, which is why palliative care was so important to me, was we were put in a position where we were told he needed an intervention or he would die. But then another specialist said, well, but if you do that intervention, he will die. So these two doctors put us in
Wow.
the middle of this impossible decision and we're like, you decide, parents. And so that's where palliative care comes in. They do goals, like how many interventions meet the goals of the family. Like for me, I
Hmm.
wanted quality of life over quantity. I really wanted him to have a full, abundant life and live life to the fullest and not live in a bubble, but for who knows, maybe how long. I wanted to go make all these memories and spend time as a family and experience life. And so I feel like that prepared me for these hard conversations and gave me that internal strength, is remembering why I did it for me, and that not everyone has that, you know, ability to have that voice. I guess when I feel like I'm speaking for the voiceless, it kind of makes me feel invincible, of like, these kids can't talk, but I can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that really helps. And then I had a meeting where I was interviewing the doctor for that pediatric palliative care team, and it was all executives. There were 5 people. It was all executives, CEOs, doctors. And I asked one of the doctors, I said, why am I here? And he said, because you'll ask the questions we can't ask, and you're here for a reason. So just accept that and, speak what you need to say and ask the questions you need to say.